Well, Kash and Bongino sat down to do an interview. Oh, yes, what is the FBI doing that is so interesting these days? It doesn't involve silver bracelets.
It's Police Week, Maria, and so it's a really momentous occasion for law enforcement, for the sacrifice they put in for the country. The deputy and I have been going to events all week, and the most painful part is being with the families of the fallen. But we're here to remind America that there's a consequence to the freedom that they have, and there's good men and women that keep stepping up for that fight. So, it's a big deal that you're here on Police Week.
There's good men and women who keep stepping up to that fight. Well, apparently someone is stepping up to that fight, because you see that eye down to something's going on, something is being done. Now, I've got a theory. What if, for those older Americans who remember the whole Hoover story and the Hoover building, and I want you to keep this in mind, okay? Hoover had dirt on every president, every buck. That man held on to that seat in the FBI like his life depended on it. Matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and say he was probably the very first Epstein. I wonder how many secret tunnels and secret passageways are running through that building, because everywhere was bugged from him. By the way, this is not the theory part. This is what historically has been found and known about. The theory part is, I have to look it up so I can figure out what it's called, is a feint. God, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, because it don't look right. Go and look that up and chew on that for a moment as we go through this video.
Thank you. And I saw the honor wall, and I want to walk past that with you. I unfortunately was on Wall Street on 9/11, and my heart goes out to the families who've lost their loved ones. Dan?
Yeah, 9/11, I was...
Ooh, it just gives me chills when I see it. Oh, my Lord. She's mentioning 9/11. Unfortunately, she was there. And here we see Kash Patel. Now, we didn't see him prior, so it's kind of like, when it comes to body language, you want to see it as it's happening, as the information gets into his brain, because that's how you know the thoughts in his head are to what she's saying. So at this moment, all I have that I can go on is to assume that he is thinking about 9/11, and the jaw is tight. I don't want to look at you. I don't want to agree with you. I'm going to look away, and my jaw is tight. Disdain. Oh, okay. Can't even speak.
I was an agent on 9/11 with the Secret Service, and I just remember, as you probably do, even from the media perspective, the chaos. Remember, nothing worked like we thought it was going to work. So the director and I, we've both been deeply inspired, obviously, as everyone in America was, by tragic, horrible incident. But I know when Kash and I are sitting there in the morning, that is the single motivating factor for us, is keep the homeland safe. That is priority number one.
And I want to ask you about...
Dear Lord. Kash is sitting there like, oh, God, don't say anything. Don't say anything stupid. Head up, jaw tight, listening to Bongino. Actually, I don't think Bongino would have said anything stupid. He's very practiced at measuring his words.
That. Now, I'll go into some of the specifics, but Director, you've said many times that the FBI has been politicized. Mm-hmm. So what are your plans?
Mm-hmm. Head up, chin up, closed eyes is probably the one thing that he's like, I can agree with you on, but I can't give a whole lot to it. And he's tight-lipped about it. Goes back to the word feint.
To rebuild trust in this fine institution and depoliticize the FBI?
So we have a multi-part process. First of all, our priorities. Simple. Crush violent crime. Defend the homeland. Rigorous organizational accountability. And the fourth, which leads directly to your question, aggressive constitutional oversight with Congress. The way we rebuild trust is we already have the men and women here in the rank and file that signed up to be cops, that signed up to be intel analysts, that signed up to be special.
And this is a lot of stress in this. You could see Bongino is really breathing hard. It would seem to me, because of how much stress it is, that this is a very important interview. They did say towards the end of this that they weren't going to do much in media. So that may be why this is so important. It's kind of like, here, this is presented to you, and then they've got to go back in the hole. But at least in the first part of Kash, first, we're going to do this, blah, 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 blah. He's being very honest with you. It's probably the one time the freaking jaw relaxes and he's just going to talk.
When it comes to the FBI.
Yeah, but come on, Director, with all due respect, we've been talking about this for a long time, and I've been demanding accountability for many, many years. One of the, you mentioned Comey, Strzok, and the rest. They've got TV shows. They've got media platforms. Yeah. They're fine. There's been no account.
We hear in the background, yes. It's too bad we don't actually get to see him as, or see both of them for that matter, as this question's being brought forth?
Accountability.
Well, look, it's a fair criticism, but what
So when we finally get it back, he sits there, he's throwing his head over to his shoulder. Yeah, it's a fair criticism, throwing it that way. It's like, okay, so you're trying to shrug it off, but at the same time, then he's going back away from it. So, and he's trying to get away from it.
I'll tell people is we weren't here in the FBI in the last 5 years when we had statute of limitations that were still in place.
Yeah, he keeps going back on that too. We weren't here in the FBI, and you see the body keep going away. He wants to get away, get away, get away.
Where we could have investigated criminal conduct. Most of these statute of limitations are 5 years old. And we will investigate criminal conduct where we find.
And then we see that negative head shake. Most of these criminal 5 years old head shake. So no, you are not going to get those perp walks from the crimes we know they committed from back then. But, and it's a big but, the body goes down, submission into positive, eyes go in the same direction. They found something. And I guess we're going to be all cryptic about it and not have a follow-up question because she doesn't read body language.
Find a righteous case to do so, and the law and the facts allow us to. But a lot of it we're precluded from. So we'll take the criticism, and it's rightfully so, that could we have done more in the past? Sure, people.
So Bongino over here, as he's talking, is starting to relax. The biggest hump, which was said, the statute of limitations, has been crossed. And apparently the building didn't burn down with Bongino. It's like, all right, yeah, the statute of limitations, that's what they're going to lean on. You know what? I don't really know a whole lot about statute of limitations, so I can't even say which of the many crimes that we all know they did has expired.
Before us could have, but what we can do now is continue to put out the documents and the information that these people withheld from the American public. And I'm just telling you right now, as much as we know about Crossfire Hurricane, he and I just found out more last week. And we're continuing to work with Congress to put those documents out.
Now Bongino is actually really relaxed in this. This is what they're doing. Statute of limitations will not allow me to do anything, but I can give you all the paperwork of what they did.
Who were at the core of this?
Yes. I was the lead Russiagate investigator for the House Intelligence Committee. And I've been on both your shows in a prior life talking about it. And I'm telling you and the American public that we have now found material and information and people who wanted to hide it from the world since we got in these seats. And we, as the deputy said, we are trying to do it in a fashion where not only are we informing the American public of what happened, but we can have accountability for it. And that takes a little bit more time. And when you layer on the fact that we are rolling out our priorities on violent crime and defending the homeland, you know, we're running a 3-part animal here, and we're going 100 miles an hour on each single one.
So important. It's just.
I kept watching that. He's got his back away from it. He really wants to get away from it. All of this is so much stress. Bongino, he's relaxed a little bit more. But the one thing on Kash that is getting me this whole time. Now, he talks in general with a very small mouth. And I mean in the sense that he doesn't really open his mouth really wide. And if you notice, because it zooms in pretty good on this show, his mouth is actually really tight. It's like his teeth barely come open to speak some of these words. And the more stressed he gets, the smaller that hole gets, which I guess goes to us seeing his very tight jaw in the beginning of this.
Are you seeing an increase in the number of potential agents wanting to come in and work with you?
Look, the FBI is 38,000 when we're fully manned, which we're not. In the National Capital Region, in the 50-mile radius around Washington, D.C., there were 11,000 FBI employees. That's like a third of the workforce. A third of the crime doesn't happen here. So we're taking 1,500 of those folks and moving them out. Every state's getting a plus up. And I think when we do things like that, we inspire folks in America to become intel analysts and agents and say, we want to go work at the FBI because we want to go fight violent crime and we want to get sent out into the country to do it. And that's what we're doing. In the next 3, 6, 9 months, we're going to do that hard. And, you know, I didn't know that I was going to do this, but I'm going to announce it on your show anyway. This FBI is leaving the Hoover building because this building is unsafe for our workforce, and we want the workforce.
He just gave up a big nugget
we
there.
want the American men and women to know.
They're quite happy about this. I was like, oh, okay. And he's adjusting himself. He's getting away from it, but he's adjusting himself. So we're getting the words, it's unsafe for us. We get away from, and we adjust ourselves as he settles into it. It's like, oh, okay. So he doesn't want completely to get away, but he's settling in. This is what's going to happen. I was like, And remember what I told you about that Hoover building.
if you're going to come work at the premier law enforcement agency in the world, we're going to give you a building that's commensurate with that. And that's not this place.
I mean, the Trump administration.
And that's not this place. And I was like, really? Well, that's very interesting when I heard the words. What does his body say as he says this? He's quite relaxed. It's not this building. Doesn't really elaborate on why it's not this building. I guess and opinionate that they didn't find all the passageways and bugs. You got to think back in Hoover's days, it was probably speaking tubes. Some of you old folks can go put that in the comments of what that is.
Has proposed a $500 million cut to the FBI's funding for 2026. How?
I saw that. I want to go back.
Building that's commensurate with that. And that's not this place.
I mean, the Trump administration has proposed a.
So he's kicking his leg, which is indicative of excess energy. It's a stress relief.
$500 million.
And then you see him just as it cuts away. He's been playing with his fingers, more stress relief. This seems very stressful. And you know what? He said 3 to 6 months. I think he even said maybe 9 months when they leave this building. I would expect to see something like a change, not like bracelets or anything, but an actual change in demeanor. And we'll know when that happens. It'll give us a clue of why they really left the Hoover building. It really is hard to be yourself if you're watching everything you say 24/7. If you like it, leave a like. And if you don't like it, leave a like anyway. Please remember to go and check out my Patreon and website, where we have exclusive content like podcast every week and tutorials. Also, please remember, go and buy some steel legs from my husband. I need him to get out of the house. Thanks for watching.